begin day two. For those of us who survived day one, to be honest, almost everyone survived.
Almost everyone. Good to hear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A couple of my staff were a little overworked yesterday, but we pulled through it, sir. Let me get right into our first speaker this morning. He needs no introduction. He runs a small $400 billion procurement program that you might have heard of, F-35. The news, just to set the stage, and you already know this, sir. The news we heard yesterday from Chief of Staff General Brown was very positive. So he basically set the stage of, I've got 7 fighter fleets now, and I'd like to compress that to 4 + 1. So the good news was obviously number one was F-35, right? And then next generation air dominance, the eventual successor for air superiority for the F-22, F-15EX, right? And then the post-block F-16 fleet, yes, sir. And then the +1, sir, was A-10, right? And so we are ready to go to talk about the program execution this morning. Please welcome General Fick.
Thank you, Jim. I look forward to it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Shall we retire to what we call the mock?
Let's go to the mock.
Yes, sir. You remember Undersecretary Schaefer, Al Schaefer?
Good to see you, Al.
Good morning, sir. Al, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. I do want to start with one preface to something Bill LaPlante said yesterday that I thought was very important for Eric. Moderating the section with Admiral Hill, he said, in his opinion, the 2 toughest programs to be program manager PEO for in the department are MDA and F-35. So Bill LaPlante gave you a pretty good shout out. And I would say I agree with that, having been around both of them for a while. So Eric, welcome. And I'll start with just kind of what's on your mind.
Well, thanks, Al, and thanks, Jim. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, with all of you online, to share my thoughts.
It's only 1,000 of your closest friends, sir.
It's only 1,000?
Yes, sir.
I thought you
there was a waiting list.
You promised me 2,000.
Yeah. WebEx asked for an extra 100,000 to go above the 1,000, sir. So hopefully this is not broadcasting. Hopefully no one will know about that. That's why there's 1,000, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
We'll take 1,000. Anyway, thanks. Thanks again for the opportunity and for the invite. Glad to be here. And Al, certainly I resonate with Dr. LaPlante's observation. Having worked for him when he was the Air Force Acquisition Executive, remarkable individual, fantastic leader. And I truly continue to resonate with his notion of owning the technical baseline. It's a direction we need to continue to march in.
Yep.
But again, glad to be here. My thoughts on the program. So as I think about the F-35 as a program, as I think about it as the enterprise, my first thought is it's real, right? 630 plus aircraft in the field today.
Yes, sir.
11 services representing 9 nations are post-IOC or post-initial operational capability. 6 services and 5 nations have employed the F-35 in combat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a program that's coming. It's a program that's here. So that's my first observation as the PEO. My second is that the F-35 delivers truly game-changing capabilities today.
Yes, sir.
With its combination of stealth, sensor fusion, and interoperability, the F-35 is truly the quarterback of the joint force, and it delivers game-changing capabilities. And Jim, when I say game-changing, I'm not talking a little change in the game. I'm talking about Tom Brady on your kid's pee-wee football team game-changing. That's what I want you to think about when I talk about game-changing capabilities. Right?
Yes, sir.
The third thing I think about, though, is not just the opportunity, but the mandate for us to do better. Because just like the kids on the opposing pee-wee football team are going to grow up, our opponents are getting better every day. They're seeing what we're doing, they're seeing how we operate, and we know that we have to continue to move the fleet forward. We have to continue to advance our technologies and capabilities to allow us to continue to counter and dominate those threat air forces, those threat ground forces.
Yes, sir.
The second thing that I think about in terms of our opportunity to get better has to do with cost and has to do with affordability. Okay. Our services, our partners, our customers don't have unlimited funds with which to employ this system, with which to develop this system. And so my focus every day is on driving affordability into the program. And then finally, even Tom Brady does very little good for the team when he's sitting on the bench. So those aircraft have to be available to fly and fight when our warfighters need them. So
Yes,
increasing our availability, increasing our mission capable and fully mission capable rates is another of my priorities here.
Yes,
We've
sir.
got to get after all of those things, and we're doing that literally each and every day. Each and every day.
Well done.
That's, by the way, I think you have the quote of the day for yesterday with Tom Brady being a quarterback of your kids' Pee Wee football team.
Yes, that was the
So
first thing I
that was
wrote
better.
down, sir.
That was better than Hondo's comments yesterday.
Oh no! Don't do that to me.
So that's very good overview. Let's start with capability. Okay. What are your biggest challenges in ensuring the F-35 will outperform future threats, and how are you overcoming those?
Yeah. So thanks for asking, Al. When we talk about capabilities in the F-35, I want to start with, the Block 3F capabilities in the field today are truly dominant. Our warfighters today doing the things that the F-35 was designed to do are delivering remarkable capabilities, dramatic overmatch. But we know that we have to continue to do better, and we've known that for quite some time. We know that we have to continue to mature those capabilities, and the capability set that we've designed to counter that emerging threat is the Block 4 capability set.
Yes, sir.
And that consists of somewhere between 66 and 70, depending upon how you count, individual capabilities to be added to the aircraft, largely software enabled, but also including 14 new weapons being brought to the table. Some of them service unique, some of them common. Our ability to deliver all of those principally software-defined but hardware-enabled capabilities is dependent upon having that computational architecture in place on the program, on the aircraft, to do that work. So the underlying computational architecture that will allow us to deliver Block 4 is Technical Refresh 3.
Okay.
Right? So,
Yes, sir.
So while we have begun to deliver Block 4 capabilities, we can
Yes, sir.
only deliver those to date that we can run on the legacy Tech Refresh 2 architecture. To get to the rest of them, to get to the majority of them, to get to the ones that we really need,
Right.
we need to have Tech Refresh 3.
Yes, sir.
So Tech Refresh 3 consists of 3 primary components. Think of it as your computer, your memory device, and your display. And as we update the computer, which for the F-35 we call the Integrated Core Processor,
Yes, sir.
the memory, which we call the Aircraft Memory Unit, and the display, which we call the Panoramic Cockpit Display, those elements are critically needed. The cockpit display and the Aircraft Memory Unit are on track, and they're doing really well.
Yes, sir.
The Integrated Core Processor, however, has suffered some developmental delays and some cost increases that we are very, very focused on with Lockheed Martin and L3 Harris,
Yes, sir.
our prime and sub for the TR3 upgrade. So as we are working forward as a team, specifically relative to the ICP, we are aggressively working to keep that on track. That TR3 hardware kit is due to cut into production in Lot 15 in 2023. So we have to keep that on track to move forward. The challenge for the program is this, though. So I mentioned we'd already delivered some Block 4 capabilities, and now we have a cost overrun, and we've got some schedule slips on TR3.
Yes, sir.
As a result of the cost overrun driven by TR3, we've had to slow development, and in some cases stop development, on some of those Block 4 capabilities to allow our most important upgrade, which at this point in time is TR3, to continue to move forward.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm getting at is that cost overrun on the hardware component has slowed our work on the software pieces.
I had not understood that. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Yes, sir.
so that's what we're working. It's critical that we do that. It's critical that we cut into Lot 15 with TR3, not only for the capability reason, but also from a
Yes, sir.
manufacturing perspective. TR3 is also a diminishing manufacturer source solution for TR2, because as we move forward in time, we will no longer be able to procure any additional TR2s. So that's our challenge from a capability perspective. We have been working very, very closely with Lockheed Martin through the execution of what we call a software independent review team over the course of last fall, and we've identified a number of ways in which we can can improve the manner in which we develop and deliver software on the F-35. We're instituting those changes in the program today, all aimed at becoming more agile and
Yes,
more,
sir.
really more responsive, delivering on a cadence that we can project, and delivering higher quality software so that we find things early rather than finding them in flight tests. So actually driving affordability into the program as well.
Not to interrupt Al,
It's okay.
the risk of being stupid, you're going to punch me, sir. So I'm glad you're so far away right now. So TR3 will be ready for Lot 15, which is your next contract, what would otherwise be the beginning of full rate production, right? But separate from FRP, right?
Yeah.
And then a dumb question, sir. That will make you Block 4 ready. And then Block 4 is still under development, and
Yeah,
it will then feed in with mods in the future, is that correct?
Yeah. So the Block 4 capability set will be delivered in increments.
Yes, sir.
We're moving from a 6-month software cadence to an annual software release cadence.
Yes, sir.
So we will deliver those capabilities, those 66 Block 4 capabilities, of which we've already delivered a handful, and we have
Yes,
another
sir.
handful in development now.
Yes, sir.
But we will deliver those over time,
Yes,
kind of
sir.
on an annual basis, rolling out those capabilities as they're ready. The TR3 hardware is that critical enabler for those capabilities
sir.
that require increased computational
Right.
horsepower and throughput.
And so I should
yeah,
be-
critical
Yes, sir.
hardware, software-defined, hardware-enabled is the way to think of the Block 4
Yes, sir. And so,
capability set.
not to be stupid, so I should be thinking TR3 cuts in with Lot 15, and then by Lot 16, the first of the Block 4 capabilities get cut in as well, or are
I
they
wouldn't say it
mods?
that way. We've already delivered early Block 4 capabilities
Okay.
today.
Yes, sir.
Additional capabilities will deliver in Lot 16 and beyond.
Yes, sir.
And we're working, I mentioned that we had to pause some of that work. We had to slow some of that work
sir.
because of the cost constraints this year. We're working very, very closely with our services, with the department, with our partners to prioritize
Yes, sir.
the Block 4 capabilities to be delivered after the cut-in of TR3.
Yes, sir.
So that we get the most important ones first,
Yes, sir.
and the others we prioritize further.
I apologize, sir. I was getting
Nope,
over
that's
late.
good.
I was waiting for the jumping into the fight too early, sir.
No.
Go ahead, sir.
It's very good, and Jim, it's a good question. I would characterize this as showing the complexity of this program, going back to Dr. LaPlante's comments. And in many ways, where I was sitting, I was looking at the F-35 being really the first true instantiation of an artificial intelligence platform being operated by a human. And we're doing things that have not been done before. So I will tell General Fick, I mean, he's done a terrific job. But we are breaking new ground as a department, and General Fick is every day. Everybody's glommed on to have to move into an artificial intelligence regime. F-35 is already there, I would say. So I think that's just, I have to make that editorial comment.
Sure thing.
So let's talk a little bit more about affordability. And you're able to get the TR3 capability, which we've talked about, back on track. GAO recently previewed a report in which they highlighted service affordability gaps over the life of the program. What are your thoughts on that particular issue and that report?
So let me be clear.
Yes, sir.
I see cost as the program's greatest enemy. I see high cost as an existential threat to the F-35 as an enterprise. And that cost happens not just in development, not just in production, but in sustainment as well. In fact, 80% of the program costs to go
Right.
are in that sustainment place. So that really presents to me both the greatest challenge and the greatest opportunity
Yes, sir.
for us to reduce overall program cost.
Yes, sir.
Is that for me?
Is that for the general or for me? Okay, I have to speak up then.
Okay.
We had a song scheduled for you later in the briefing. That's for the song, sir. Did your
That's
staff
fine.
not tell you about the song?
I am happy to sing whatever song you like.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry,
This
sir.
is for the mosh pit.
Yes, sir.
And we
I
had Morris
apologize,
Day
sir.
going on earlier. It was great. I love the tunes in here. You got a great staff.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So the part of affordability that I control right, is the cost piece. There's two elements to affordability, right? There's the cost piece, and there's the how much money are you willing to assign against. And that piece belongs to the services. That piece belongs to partners. The cost piece is the piece that I control, and that's what's got my full attention, each and every day.
Yes, sir.
From a developmental perspective, some of the things that we're doing, I mentioned the independent review team. As some of the outcomes of the work that we're doing within that IRT, we are increasing the amount of automated test and retest that's happening on the software, so that we don't push faulty software into the field or even into flight test, which is where a lot of that
Yes, sir.
work has been done previously. We'll probably talk a little bit later, I'm guessing, about the joint simulation environment.
Yes.
The JSE actually also, in addition to being used for IoT&E, initial operational test and evaluation,
Right.
also presents a great opportunity for us as an enterprise to reduce the cost to develop and deliver software, specifically to reduce the cost to verify the capabilities that we're putting into that software ahead of open air flight test.
Yes, sir.
So we're doing things in development to drive down cost. In production, you're all tracking the lot 12 through 14 deal that we sealed back in 2019, which was an awesome deal for the warfighters, an awesome deal for the taxpayers, driving costs down, using economic order quantity authorities to continue to drive costs down, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward into the lot 15 through 17 negotiations, which are ongoing now. But in sustainment, that's where we really have the biggest mandate, the biggest challenge when we look at the services affordability targets and the cost associated with the program. So
Yes, sir.
when I look at where we've been and where we're going, I think we're making good progress. The FY20 actuals are just coming in now, and the only service for which I have the numbers right now is actually the U.S. Air Force. And I see that the cost per flight hour for a U.S. Air Force F-35A went down from $37,000 in base year $12
Yes, sir.
to $33,300 again in base year $12
Yes, sir.
over the course of that 1 year. So that's a 10%
Okay.
reduction in cost per flying hour over the course of that year. Now, that's not the only measure we use to assess sustainment affordability.
Yes, sir.
Cost per flying hour is one thing we look at, and cost per tail per year is another.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And by looking at them both, you start to see interplay and trade-offs between them. Because,
Yes, sir.
for instance, I can reduce my cost per flying hour by flying more hours, right? You increase the denominator, the overall cost per flight hour goes down,
Yes, sir.
right? On the other side, that actually increases the cost per tail per
Right.
year that the services have to pay. So I can alternatively, I can fly less, maybe offload some of that work to our full mission simulators or advanced simulators, which is something we're considering and working with the services on.
Yes, sir.
And that would increase the cost per flight hour because I'm now amortizing all my fixed cost across a lower number of flight hours. So only by
Okay.
looking at those
Right.
two metrics together
I had not understood that.
can you get a really clear view of the work that you're doing and of the
Yes,
work
sir.
that remains to be done. So we are laser focused on driving cost out of sustainment. We do that in a number of ways. All right, we do that by targeting sustaining support, targeting the, I'll say it this way, targeting the Lockheed and Pratt
Right.
polo-wearing folks who are supporting our and they're great Americans doing great work, but they're very expensive. So targeting the sustaining support that we have on the flight lines today, looking at ways to reduce that. Targeting also the organic maintainer footprint. This airplane takes a lot of people to maintain. So trying to find ways to work, again, working with the services to reduce that required footprint will drive costs down. And then really the next biggest piece has to do with the spares and the parts we buy
Right.
and the parts that we repair. And driving cost out of that piece is really the next lever.
And you're saying that's in the flying cost per tail per year. The spares are in there as
Yep.
Yes,
The
sir.
spares and repairs
Yes,
are
sir.
really within both of those.
Yes, sir.
Both of those elements. So getting after those three major areas is where we're targeting sustainment cost improvements. And that last piece, the spares and repairs, is really kind of at the heart of the conversation that we've had about a performance-based logistics contract with Lockheed
Okay.
Martin.
Interesting. I had not, I apologize, sir, that was stupid on my part. I had not fully thought through. I remember all the heat and light that came from the HASC readiness and the TALF hearing.
Right.
But I had not fully thought through how you were going to get from that like $8 million-ish Air Force cost per tail per fiscal year to the, what is it, 4.1 million per
4.1
year?
is the U.S. Air Force
The
target.
Air Force
right?
can afford.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And that, don't get me wrong, that is a huge leap. That's an enormous leap. And so, in addition to, again, to reducing the cost to operate, the cost it takes me per hour to fly it, I know that there are likely other things that we need to do. One of the opportunities we have, one of the amazing things about the F-35 is how well it does in highly complex environments.
Yes, sir.
Right, and our need to train our air crew in those environments necessitates that we use synthetic environments to do that. It necessitates that we use our full mission simulators, perhaps other simulators still under development, even the joint simulation environment as a way to help train our operators to execute in the high-end fight. Because remember, these are threat systems, foreign threat systems that we're training against, red air that we're training against. There's nowhere else to do that except in that synthetic environment. So as we explore ways to perhaps offset open air flying hours and replace them with simulator hours, we have a great solution potentially from a training perspective for how we can achieve some greater affordability as a program.
Yes, sir. And at the risk of further disrupting Al's questioning.
No, this is fine.
I got the sense from kind of the watching the hearing that the Air Force is the primary construct in terms of the challenge of the costing. I got the kind of the sense from listening to the GAO testimony there that the Marine Corps and the Navy have kind of workaround options. They already kind of see a path to the end of the tunnel, and the primary challenge at this point in time is probably the Air Force. Is that, am I properly characterizing that?
Well, when you, let me think, when you look at the affordability targets that the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and the Navy set, right?
Yes, sir.
The most aggressive of the three,
yes, sir,
by a long shot, is the Air Force's target,
okay,
right? And,
yes,
and
sir,
that's a function of the dollars they have to allocate to the program.
Yes, sir.
And remember, this program was designed to replace the F-16, replace the A-10, and as you mentioned in our introduction, we're going to have the F-16 for a while. We're going to have the A-10 for a while.
Yes, sir.
So now, the funds available to allocate against the F-35 have perhaps gone down. And so our mandate is to figure out how we can help the services, all of them, and our partners, live within their means. And so, again, the part that I can influence has nothing to do with the allocation of funds. The part that I can influence has to do with reducing the cost of the program.
So you're not in any way, I completely misspoke, because what you're not in any way thinking, because the Air Force is crunching down from 7 fleets down to 4+1, that there's going to be extra money. You're just saying, hey, there's going to be more pressure to be able to fly this, to be able to get enough aircraft to be able to fly in that. So there's no savings there to be had. It's just pressure on getting those costs down to really be affordable, to be able to buy the aircraft that the Air Force is going to need.
Yeah, and again, the real expense isn't buying the aircraft. The real expense is sustaining the aircraft. So that's really where our focus is.
Yes, sir.
Working with the services, working with the partners, working with our customers, our FMS customers, that is, to do that holistic work.
Yes, sir.
I absolutely agree with the sustainment costs. I know when I was in the Pentagon, we stood up a cell and then the ASD for sustainment specifically to help with any of the blocking and tackling on sustainment costs. But when I think about a platform, sustainment costs are important, but so is the mission capable rates.
Absolutely.
And the GAO, again, reported that the mission-capable rates are consistently below those that are required by the services. So it's one thing to have sustainment costs down, but you have to do that while keeping the mission capability rate up. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so great question, Al. So certainly there's tension there, right? It's much cheaper to just park the airplane, but a parked airplane rarely actually delivers combat effect, right? So,
yes, sir.
So we're working that closely.
Yes,
are
sir.
we making progress? Absolutely. When I look at year-over-year mission capable and full mission capable rates for the fleet, we're up from an MC perspective. We're up about 5%, 20 over 19, and from an FMC perspective, maybe 3.5%. Are those satisfying numbers? No, absolutely not. Are they movement in the right direction? Yeah, they are.
And you're going to punch me for asking, I apologize. The mission capable rate would be for any one mission
Any one mission.
on a particular day.
Exactly.
And the full mission capable rate, if I understand
full
it, is
set of
for
missions.
every
You got it.
every adversary that aircraft might run into in a Taiwan fight.
Right.
So really a much higher level.
Exactly, and increasingly what we're hearing from all of our services and all of our customers and partners is this airplane was designed to be an FMC airplane. We need it to fight as an FMC jet. And so we are taking that into account as we work our way through our negotiations for our current annualized sustainment strategy, our
Okay.
contracts. And we're going to make sure that we take that into account as well.
Yes, sir.
As we work our way into any kind of a potential performance-based logistics contract.
Absolutely.
But getting after MC and FMC is again another key. And this is a place where I think we as an enterprise fell down historically, and we need to get better. We need to continue to get better. And we do that in a number of ways. The first thing that we need to do is find ways to keep parts on the airplane longer.
Yes, sir.
If I don't take a part off an airplane or if it doesn't break, then I don't have to fix it, and it stays MC or FMC.
Yes, sir.
The second thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that when we pull a part off an aircraft, because eventually that part will fail.
Yes, sir.
That we have one on the shelf that's ready to go to replace it. So keeping it on the airplane longer is all about what we call the reliability and maintainability improvement program. And then having them ready is all about our spares buys, making sure that we're actually executing and our industry partners are delivering the spares that we need to keep the shelf stocked and ready to go.
And I apologize, sir. You're saying the term of art we should be thinking about is the reliability and maintainability program is the first piece.
Yep.
So every time
Keeping parts on the airplane longer.
Yes, sir. It's meaning the suppliers
Yep.
need to be incentivized to redesign parts, to cut them into the spares packages so that your FMCR goes up.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and we get after that, Jim, by looking at, what are the parts that are breaking? Are
Yes,
they
sir.
breaking early? Are they breaking late? And what opportunity do we have to put improvements in? And execute a business case analysis, see if the
Yes, sir.
return on investment is there, and then cut it into production and cut it into spares.
And Al's going to smack me for asking
No,
this.
I think it's good, Jim, but I would characterize it slightly differently.
Yes, sir.
In general, see if you agree with this. It's not a linear problem. And at the end of the day, it's a balance between cost, capability,
Yes,
and
sir.
availability. And
Yep.
you turn the knobs on any of those, and the others will be affected, not necessarily one for one.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's a really difficult problem, which is getting back to some of the advanced analytics that I know General Fick's team is doing and trying to figure this out for optimizing the problem. But it's hard.
Yeah.
And
Yes, sir.
I would just say, for any of the people out there who like to criticize, they
Right.
tend to criticize one element without thinking about the impact on the other two.
Absolutely.
And all three of them are significant and
Yeah, they're-
together.
They're interdependent.
They are absolutely interdependent.
And then just to finish off that
Yes,
thought
sir.
real quick, the next most important piece is to make sure that then, if we don't have the parts on the shelf, right?
Yes, sir.
That we have the repair capacity
Yep.
and velocity to turn them around quickly and get them back out there. And
Yes, sir.
that's really the piece that I think, again, we as an enterprise didn't do well in the early days of this program. We pushed out our organic depot stand-up by a wide margin.
Yes, sir.
Starting about 3 years ago, we accelerated that depot stand-up. Al, you were in A&S at the time.
Yes, sir.
We accelerated that by 6 years. So we should have now all of our organic depots, all 68 planned organic workloads stood up by the 2025 timeframe rather than 2031.
Yes,
which
sir.
is where it was progged to be. Getting all of those things right really helps us from a long-term perspective.
Yes, sir.
I think of this, my dad had an old saying. He said, sometimes it's easy, when you're up to your neck in alligators, sometimes it's easy to forget that you're there to drain the swamp. So,
Yes, sir.
so we have both a near-term issues that we're trying to get after, and we track
Right.
our degraders squadron by squadron, base
Yes,
by
sir.
base around the world, and we're getting after all of those. And then the longer-term piece, the draining the
Yes,
swamp
sir.
piece, is all about those 4 criteria. I
And is
just
there
talked
a
about.
list of the gremlins, the top
Absolutely.
maybe 3 or 4 that
Absolutely.
Are there? Yeah, I interrupted you. I'm sorry, sir.
No.
You were just about to spill the
again,
beans.
We track those. We track our top degraders by F-35 A, B, and C. We track
sir.
them by service. We track them by nation. We track them by base. We track them by squadron. So we know at any particular point in time what's holding this particular unit back, what's holding the other unit back, and we allocate resources to bring the units up on step.
Yes, sir.
to optimize their mission capability rates.
I interrupted you, I'm sorry, sir.
No, Jim, it's good, but I'd like to just kind of shift a little bit. And we heard some people yesterday talk about different acquisition pathways. And I know that the JSF started out very classic, milestone B, C,
Right.
full rate production. Now we're in a position where we're thinking about full rate production, milestone C, and the joint simulation environment. And I know at the time, Assistant Secretary of Defense for Acquisition, Kevin Fahey, and I had a lot of talks. Not clear what a full rate production means, not clear what a milestone C means with regard to JSE, because you are producing right now at max capacity. So kind of, does it matter that we haven't reached a formal full rate production milestone? I kind of set my question up where
Asked and answered. Right?
Exactly. I'm sorry about that, but
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
your views on it.
So, sir, so as you mentioned, Al, we are effectively at full rate production today, and so from and we actually have a very close relationship with ANS, with our defense acquisition executive as well as our service acquisition executive, and those interactions and engagements I don't foresee will change as we move forward. In some ways, milestone C used to kind of be a departure from the close management of OSD and the services. I don't see us getting away from that. So really for me, I don't sense that the lack of that milestone is doing anything other than providing a launching point for criticism of the program. So for that reason, perhaps alone,
Yes, sir.
I would love to get past milestone C and full rate production. Your question on the JSE is one that may require a little bit more discussion. I don't know if everybody understands what JSE is all about, but one of the, and it's tied to initial operational test and evaluation. So in order for us to execute the milestone C as well as the full rate production decision, we have to complete IOT&E, initial operational test and evaluation, and the director of operational test and evaluation has to submit his beyond low rate initial production report, his BLRIP report.
Yes, sir.
Now, the director has determined that a number of missions executed in the joint simulation environment is required for him to declare that IOT&E, to declare sufficiency of test for IOT&E. So for that reason, primarily, we are all hands on deck working to mature the JSE and to make it available for the final 64 runs of IOT&E so that we can complete that test effort and we can then deliver that beyond LRIP report to the defense acquisition executive who can then make the milestone decision.
Yes, sir.
Right, so that's how those things all kind of tie together. When I look at the JSE, however, I think about it a little bit differently. Certainly, we need to use it for this purpose. We need to use it to close out IOT&E. And specifically, the missions we're working to execute there are missions against advanced threats.
Right.
In operational laydowns that we can't get to in the open air, right? And so these are highly complex scenarios involving hundreds of entities, dozens of friendly and threat systems, all interacting with one another on a digital level, which is part of why the integration and the development work so far has been so hard, right? So that we can make sure that not only does the F-35 excel against the current threat, but as we look forward into the future, right, we can see how we will do against projected threat laydowns in the 2025, 2030, 2035 timeframe. That's the mandate really for the Director of Operational Testing and Evaluation and the IOT&E test series. So this has given us great insight into what's coming next.
Yes, sir.
My selfish view of the JSE is I want to take that very high fidelity representation of the threat environment and integrate that into my software development pipeline.
Early.
So that rather than waiting until I get into open air flight tests to validate or verify a capability has been properly implemented, I can do that earlier in the JSE. So I'm working closely with the folks at Pax River who own the JSE, and I'm working closely with my partners and industry teammates at Lockheed, looking at ways that we can integrate that development effort.
So you would eventually crush what would eventually be Block 5 immediately. So you would harvest all the JSE findings to really just to effectively create.
My belief, Jim, is this.
Yes, sir.
I believe that in the JSE, when completed, we're going to find things that we need to do differently moving forward.
Yes, sir.
We're going to find places where where the Block 3F capability set falls short of what we need to dominate
Okay.
the fight in the future. And candidly, that's what the Block 4 capability set is all about.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. It's a test of the Block 3F.
So as we take 3F into the JSE,
Okay.
right, I think it will form...
Reinforce the need
it
for
will
Block 4.
Reinforce the need for Block 4.
Yes, sir.
And it will help us to adjust course if there
Yes,
are
sir.
places in which that Block 4 skill set, or Block 4 capability set may not actually
Yes, sir.
cover the things that we find.
I had not, I apologize, sir. I had looked at it like a lagging indicator. I hadn't understood how critical it is too.
It's allowing us to look forward.
Yes, sir.
Well, General, you start out by saying that you view the program as game-changing. I view the JSC as game-changing, and I would say that would be like getting Joe Montana to be the backup for Tom Brady. Joe Montana in his prime.
Absolutely.
Might have been better. We have just a couple minutes left, and I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Alice and Odin.
Okay.
So the key driver of reliability, capability, and affordability for your program really initially was tied up with the F-35 Automatic Logistics
Autonomic.
Information System, ALICE.
Yep.
Government made a decision a couple of years ago to go from ALICE, which was contractor owned and operated, to a government owned and operated system called Odin for logistics.
Yep.
Are you currently in a strategic pause on that transition? Where are we, and how is that going from
Yeah.
your perspective?
Let me talk about it in a general sense about maintenance data
Sir,
systems
good
for
morning,
the
sir.
F-35.
How you doing?
So you are
We
correct.
have,
We decided
so-
about a year
so
and a
General
half
Fick
ago
is
to make a
briefing, right?
deliberate change from ALICE, the legacy maintenance data system, to Odin, an evolved maintenance data system that the U.S. government will fully own, control, and operate. As we stepped into 2020, however, we realized that not only do we have to get Odin right, but even if we delivered it on the cadence that we projected last year, there would still be an extended period of time where Alice was active in the field. And so what we embarked upon was a change in philosophy and strategy relative to the work we did with Alice. We evolved from a kind of a biannual, once every 2 years release cycle to a quarterly release cycle for Alice capabilities. We established quarterly user groups to drive our team to interact more with the users and to influence what goes into those quarterly drops. So those quarterly drops are focused on pain points that the users are feeling today. So as a result of that increased cadence, increased interaction with the users, we've actually pretty dramatically altered the user experience with Alice. Is it perfect? No, it's far from perfect. But there are a number of areas in which we have dramatically changed the game there. As we look forward into Odin, we're carrying forward that deeper user engagement and have actually established an underlying user agreement, and we've established a capability needs statement that better define what Odin is for our warfighters. If you think back, Alice was actually designed at a time when we didn't have many airplanes, if any, in the field. Now we've got 600 plus of them. We have a cadre of experienced maintainers who are helping influence what goes into Odin. So we're starting and we're deepening that user interaction. At the same time, we've delivered the initial increment of hardware that supports both current Alice operations and will support Odin software when it becomes available. So moving out on the hardware piece. Odin's not all about hardware.
Right.
It's about hardware, it's about applications, and it's about the underlying data environment. We're working all three of those things, right? But what we realized as we did that user engagement, as we rolled out the hardware, we realized that the cadence on which we projected we would deliver Odin was extraordinarily aggressive, and that we needed to kind of recalibrate our plan for that delivery.
Yes, sir.
And so that's what we're doing. We're relooking at how we're going to deliver, and honestly informed by dialogue from the users that says, hey, look, we actually like what we're starting to see in Alice a little bit more, so don't mess it up as you transition into Odin. So making sure that we're very deliberate as we move forward.
Well, I think it's important to remember that involved in this whole process, we've also changed how we're delivering software in the defense acquisition system. So this is a big sea change. I was going to ask you how confident you are that you're going to deliver a capable system. I think you've demonstrated that with your answers, and I feel very good about where you are. We have a couple of minutes. Do you mind if I go to some of the questions?
We're on it.
Are we? Yeah. That's,
In fact, sir, I disappeared for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That was me up briefing.
I thought you were a magician.
No, sir. That was me up briefing HASS Chairman Adam Smith on your progress.
so
okay.
He
Fantastic.
was relieved to hear your program is doing well, sir. And I did ask him if it's okay if we could have a couple of extra minutes to be able to get through your Q&A.
So we
Okay.
do have Gary Jones from Pine Island. Gary, are you out there?
Yes, sir, I am. Yes, thank you.
Good morning, sir. We can hear you.
Good morning. Good morning, General. Thank you for sharing your knowledge there, and thank you for your service. Just a quick question regarding Lot 15, 16, 17. A lot of people we work with are obviously in negotiations now, and I just wondered if you had any insight as to what sort of timeline you have for getting those into the hands so we could start manufacturing those.
Yeah, so we are focused, we're in the middle of lot 15 through 17 negotiations today, literally as we speak. I'm supposed to get an update this afternoon from
Yes,
my
sir.
team, and we are still targeting an award by the 30th of September. So trying to get to a handshake, I won't say in the immediate term, but an award by the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your question.
Thank you, Gary. Let's turn now to Teresa Hitchens from Breaking Defense. Teresa, are you out there?
I sure am. Nice to see you, General. My question is about Odin and Alice and Odin. Can you tell us when you expect now to actually affect the transition to Odin? Because in the past it was really soon. It should have been happening already, I think. So can you talk to us about what your timing is for that at this point?
Yeah, so Teresa, thanks for the question. I addressed that just a minute ago with Mr. Schaefer, but basically what we realized was that very, very aggressive timeline that we outlined last year, you know, the industry experts, even the agile software experts that we've been consulting with from the Air Force, from the Navy, from other corners of the enterprise, scoffed at the speed with which we thought and were convinced that we could deliver last year about this time. And
Yes,
so the team is working very deliberately and diligently to assess where we are, to assess how we make that transition in a smooth and seamless way. Because as I mentioned, we're actually starting to see some positive change in Alice's performance, and we want to make sure that we don't suffer a decline in performance as we make the transition to Odin.
So you don't have a goal date then? This is all up in the air. It could be next year. It could be 20 years from now, or what?
Well,
Do you have a ballpark?
It will be neither of those. How about that for a ballpark?
Yes, sir.
But
Well spoken.
To my previous point, though, we have begun to roll out the new computational hardware on which it would ride. Like I said, Odin is not all about the hardware. It's about the hardware, the data environment, and the software. And so putting that into place is actually solving some of our issues and some of our crises. And we'll be able to roll out a more detailed plan, I'm going to guess, within the next 6 to 9 months.
Right, and if I hear you correctly, sir, you're already showing 5% mission capable rate improvements every year already. So it's not like the system is just plateaued.
Sure. From 2019 to 2020 at the fleet level.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
We saw that improvement. I'll be honest, for the Air Force F-35As in that same time period, both MC and FMC increased by 10%.
Excellent.
So
Okay.
that the distribution of mission capable improvement is not uniform.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned that in my HASC testimony there. It's much less for the Marine Corps and even less and perhaps even negative in some areas
Yes,
for
sir.
the Navy. So we know that we have to increase fleet MC and FMC. It's not just one service. It's not just one place.
Yes, sir.
We need to raise the tide.
Al, I interrupted you. I'm
No,
sorry,
that's
sir.
okay. And thank you, Teresa. By the way, I love the picture of David Bowie over your shoulder. So
We did not hear any David Bowie on the set here previously.
I know.
so
I
maybe
was
we'll have to work on
disappointed.
that.
If you want it, sir, we'll get it for you, sir. Don't worry, sir.
Thank you, Teresa. Let's go to Aiden Quigley from Inside Defense. Aiden, are you out there?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks again for doing this. I have a question about JSE. I'm wondering if you've solidified the new schedule and when do you expect that to be ready for testing and for testing to be completed?
Yeah, so good question. We're doing two things before we slap the table on the schedule for JSE. The first is that we invited some experts from Carnegie Mellon and Johns Hopkins, and there's one other institution that I'm forgetting the name right now, to come in and work with us to assess what it is we are trying to do in JSE. So having stood up last year and in previous years and committed to timelines and gotten burned by them, we said, look, are we asking this team to do something that's not even possible to do? And so that report, I took a preliminary brief yesterday on the outcomes. I'll say at the summary level, we're not asking for something that's impossible. So I think that we know that this can be done.
Yes, sir.
Our challenge is, as we take these dozens of red and blue assets and we integrate them into this synthetic environment, and then we execute the validation and verification that says, yea, verily, they interact with one another, not just on an appearance level, but on a digital level, right? At the underlying data layer level. As we do that, do they fully represent the threat in the field? And that's the piece, in my mind, based upon that study, that I don't have great certainty into. I've got great line of sight to integration, I think, of all of those threats into the JSE, and they're actually making outstanding progress there.
Right.
It's the validation and verification piece that I'm struggling with a little bit, making sure that we understand before I commit to Ms. Cummings or the new secretary, should he be appointed, before I commit to that date.
Yes, sir.
So again, I've got great confidence in the team that I have doing this work now. The folks at Naval Air Systems Center down at Patuxent River are doing remarkable work in standing up this landmark facility. They're working very, very close with Afatech, very, very close with ComOpTef4, very, very close with DOT&E as we work to make sure that this facility, this system, is truly representative of that threat in the time frame that we need.
Yes, sir.
So I'm unfortunately, much like the previous question, I'm going to hold off on committing to a date because I want to make sure that we're thinking through this very deliberately, and I don't want to set folks up with unreasonable expectations.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Aiden. And I know we are coming close, so we got time for one more. Dave Patterson, good to see you again.
Good morning, General Fick. Good morning, Al. Good morning, Jim. I'm going to dispense with the highly technical questions because I don't remember what they were. But what I would like to do is kind of move into the philosophical. When you leave your job, and you will at some point, you're going to leave a note for your successor. And that note's going to be about the one thing that you will tell them about lowering costs for sustainment. What would that be? And you can use more than 288 characters.
Dave, thanks. I got to tell you, I've been pretty public and pretty overt, and I think pretty transparent relative to my thoughts about capability, affordability, and availability. The note that I'll leave for my successor has everything to do with how he enables his team, or how she enables her team, to execute this work. The JPO is an extraordinarily complex place. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of stakeholders that we interact with on a daily basis. And I can't, my executive leadership team can't, do that all on their own. So what we are doing each and every day to drive, to enable the members of this JPO team, the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps, military and civilians, our international cooperative program personnel, or CPPs, that are on the program. We enable them to get their jobs done. We have remarkable people, truly remarkable people. We need to work harder to unleash them, to train them, to educate them to do the work of this program. With their help and on the direction, on the vectors that we're on today, that's what I would leave with my successor. That's what he needs to do.
And a silly question. So we've got about 1.5 minutes left. Chairman Smith was very gracious to be just thrown up on the stage. Is there a message to the kind of the wheat farmer out in Oklahoma? What what is the combat power that this brings that's going to be so critical in terms of the China fight?
Yeah.
'Cause I think the American people are really waking up now to China is going to be a magnificent challenge.
Right. I would go back to Tom Brady on the Pee Wee football team. Right. This is a remarkable capability today, and we need to continue to press hard on our ongoing development efforts to make sure that we maintain that advantage as we move off into the future. That requires teamwork. It's going to require a change of culture and a change of participation of,
Yes,
of the services of OSD, of the test community, of the development community, of our contractors and their vendors.
Yes, sir.
As we embrace a more agile, a more nimble development paradigm so that we can maintain the edge that we've built.
I sense and see you are a man on a mission.
I'm on a mission.
Well done, sir.
So I
ahead,
would
sir.
like to just say one last thing. And
Yes, sir.
just General Fick, Eric, I enjoyed working for you when I was in the Pentagon and with you. And I have utmost confidence that you will deliver a great capability for the nation. And I think everybody out there owes you a debt of thanks for the amount of hard work you and your team are putting in to make sure we deliver something that will give dominance for America. So thank you, Eric.
Well spoken, sir.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.